Okay, so the last segment is, and it's great that the actress who plays her does not have a Twitter account.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
great.
she just can never say anything that displeases us. Um, which may have ruined what I'm going to say already, but who is the greatest Star Wars character of all time? And why is it Cara Dune? And the thing is, it's tough to choose for me personally between Cara Dune and the Armorer.
Mhm.
But the point is that we should talk about Cara Dune because there's not much more we can say about the Armorer. That isn't just reliving cool things that she did.
Right.
Um, and so like Cara Dune is a neat character because she's like this scrappy chick that has Ashley's haircut, and has years more of MMA training. Because like I remember seeing Gina Carano fight in Strike Force, right? Like I've seen Haywire, you know. She's just like a neat, remarkable presence to have on screen when people know how to use her correctly, and she has people that she can fight with.
Mhm.
Like Channing Tatum is the greatest physical actor of his generation.
Yeah.
Like his dancing, his fight choreography, everything else. He's actually getting really good at comedy now too.
Yeah.
And dramatic acting, if you use him as physically as possible and says as little as possible, is amazing. And like I
Yeah.
know that sounds a little bit mean, but it's not meant to be. But
Right.
like just the kinetic motion of him is incredible. And if you just watch like if you just watch his Soderbergh movies, so the
Right.
first Magic Mike and Haywire, it's nuts because he can do incredible fight choreography and sequences with Gina Carano that I never had any indication that he could do. Because I'd seen him in one stupid MMA movie and he was pretty good. So he
Right.
was probably like a high school or a college wrestler, but he's really, really good and she's really fucking cool at
Right.
all of this shit. And the way that she's been able to adapt MMA and the choreographers that she's worked with to good movies is nuts. Because there's a lot of well-trained MMA fighters who
Mhm.
either are not good at transitioning into stage fighting or
Mhm.
they just end up with like shit choreographers. But she has had a super neat run. But like, what a fascinating character.
Yeah. Because already she has that presence when she comes, like when she shows up in the first time with the whatever that, I forget the name of the episode, but
It's the
Sanctuary.
Seven Samurai one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Seven Samurai one. Which they, it's just funny enough is that that's the second time they've riffed on that in all of the, because there is an episode of Clone Wars where they also riff on Seven Samurai.
But
Basically,
like,
yeah,
George Lucas wasn't just a fan of Akira Kurosawa. He
right,
produced at least one of his movies,
yeah,
right? Like he worked with Akira Kurosawa, right?
yeah,
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the verdict is on like George Lucas and the ways that he's used Japanese film and culture in his films. Like we do know that he wanted to use Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and like it's fine if he didn't want to do it. But that also meant that like Tadanobu Asano probably would have played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequels. The guy from Ichi the Killer would have been one of the number one actors in the running to play Obi-Wan Kenobi. What a fucking dream. No offense to Toshiro Mifune, whatever you wanted to play or didn't want to play is chill. And George Lucas could have found another Japanese or Japanese American actor.
right.
Actually, you know what? You know who would have been a little bit busy but not too busy in 1977, who's a Japanese American actor who
Who?
could bring both of the things that everybody wants from Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is like bringing, like an authentic Japanese presence to the whole like parts of Jedi stuff that they took from samurai while also being gay, like Alec Guinness, and actually being out, which I don't think Alec Guinness was in his lifetime.
I didn't know
Who
that.
also knows who how to handle a sword.
Is it George Takei?
Oh my. Yes! God, I can't believe I just figured that one out. In
Oh,
1977, yeah, he had time.
yeah.
Fuck.
But yeah, I mean, going
Fuck.
wrapping back to yeah, wrapping back to Cara Dune. I mean, she has such a presence when you see her because she's just that
Mm.
intimidating, and then like, but also weirdly warm.
Mm.
Um, but like you find out her background of being a shock trooper during the rebellion.
Yeah. But you don't find out the other part.
You don't find out the other part until episode 8.
And that is just such a killer scene because like no like Giancarlo Esposito is, I don't know, there could have been maybe 2 other actors who really, really could have sold that scene.
Yeah.
And like to be able to bring in a villain who can supersede the physical presence of Werner Herzog.
Seriously.
Number one is extremely hard. They needed, and I'm sure they knew that. They were like, okay, if we're going to bring in Werner Herzog as the initial villain, who are we going to bring in behind him who's going to feel more threatening, more powerful, more authoritative, and smoother?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be someone a bit younger.
Well, yeah.
He's probably not that much younger than Herzog.
Right. I don't have certain, but yeah.
But you bring in one of the top 3 greatest TV villains of all time. You bring in Giancarlo Esposito. You bring in a fucking Breaking Bad villain. A guy who can stand in that color saturation, in that legacy of referencing Westerns, because they actually reference a lot of John Ford shots in Breaking Bad, which is kind of unfortunate, because once I found out who John Ford was when I saw Django Unchained, I was like, oh... It's too bad.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know what they just want the settings because, of course, it's New Mexico in Breaking Bad. But they brought someone with such incredible potential, and he's the guy who tells you where those 3 characters are from and who they are. And they let Giancarlo Esposito bring everything home because this closes off an entire chapter of this entire dynamic that we're discussing, right? Because what does it mean? The Cara Dune is from Alderaan.
Right.
Number one, it means she's a genocide survivor, which is a big, big deal. So you understand a lot of her emotional background, right?
Right.
And stuff like this. But what has our picture been of Alderaan? Who are Alderaanians that we have seen and we have known in this franchise until we see Cara Dune?
So it's Bail Organa.
Yeah.
Briefly his wife, Breha, and Leia. That's it.
There you go. The upper class, the fancy, everything.
Right.
We never think of this idea of a shock trooper, of someone who is a Star Wars version of a Vietnam door gunner, effectively, right? Someone who saw a lot of brutal combat and ugly things as being Alderaanian. So, I mean, you know, she's white and whatnot, but and so much of this aspect of broadening the galaxy and resistance has been to show people of color and colonized people in particular as being the victims of the Empire. But they've even expanded the way that we see Alderaan. And of course, like, God, what is his name that plays Bail Organa?
Jimmy Smits?
Yeah, Jimmy Smits is Hispanic. I mean, was he on Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah, he was Amy's dad.
Amy's dad, right? Because I want to make sure I wasn't getting mixed up with someone else.
No, Danny Trejo was Rose's dad.
Oh no, I know that. I didn't get him mixed up with Danny Trejo. Yeah. There's another Hispanic actor that I think I've mixed him up with in the past, but I think he's Cuban American. Because I think God, what is her name? Amy?
Oh God. Why am I spacing on her
Amy
name?
Santiago.
Yeah, Amy Santiago is the character. I was spacing on her actor's name.
Anyway, yeah, but I think he's Cuban American. So I mean, it isn't to say that the Alderaanians have been like white. Although it's kind of like, that's interesting that he's Leia's father.
Right.
That's right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, but so, you know, but in the same way, they're very much at least the aristocracy, right?
Right.
And I don't know Gina Carano's background actually.
Yeah, I don't
know if she's Hispanic or not. Either way.
Yeah.
Point is, so it's not the most revolutionary take but it does even give us a stronger view of Alderaan. I guess it would be interesting to know kind of who and what she was on Alderaan, because that's something that we don't know. We know what she's like now,
Right.
that she's like a working class soldier who has a lot of PTSD, a lot of violence in her life,
Right.
and a lot of perpetuating violence in her life, right?
Mhm.
But that isn't to say that we're like, because we could find out later on that she was some kind of um, aristocracy,
Right.
right? And that she kind of represents the same deviation that Luke kind of represented from Leia growing up, the
Right.
way that she did. So we could see later on that she is someone who had to learn hard and fast, and she's going to be a character who bridges the world from Mon Mothma to Enfys Nest in terms of just like her life circumstances taking her in a different direction in that battle.
Mhm.
But that's what's so fascinating. But you just know, and I think Rogue One is what comes first, and not A New Hope, when you find out that she's from Alderaan,
Right.
and just that view of what it looks like when a planet is destroyed, and
Right.
not the old 1977 version.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's yeah.
I mean,
That's all I've got,
yeah.
really.